just gone 4 o'clock in the morning. I've been awake for at least half an hour. When I go to bed at night, I listen to a YouTube channel that recounts stories of malicious compliance that they've got from Reddit. And normally I'll listen to one or two and I'll fall asleep, and that was it. So I woke up, I was still listening to it on the headphones, and I think I listened to about 5 or 6, dipping in and out of sleep before waking up properly. So that was that. I looked at the clock at about 20 to 4. I obviously wasn't falling back asleep. I was feeling quite hot, but I don't understand why. And I'm also feeling slightly hungry, and I don't understand why. So after lying in bed for 20 minutes, tossing and turning and trying to fall back asleep, I decided not to bother and to get up. I suspect this is because I fell asleep for 2.5 hours or so last night, which means my body clock is now going to be all over the place, even more. And chances are, because I'm awake now when I should be asleep, I'm going to be asleep later when I should be awake. But at least it's Friday. It's now about 6 o'clock in the morning. I've been sitting doing editing with my back to the window, and I got up to get another drink and realised it was light outside. Good morning, Friday. So it's now about 20 past 7. I was suddenly aware of an intensity of light from behind me. It's almost as if the sun was on a dimmer switch, and I realised that somebody had turned the dimmer switch up. That's where we are at the moment. I'm still feeling hungry again. I don't know why. I had something to eat earlier, but I think now is the time I'm ready to go back to bed, which seems absolutely bizarre because this is the point where the rest of the world is waking up. So I'm going to go back to bed, mostly because I'm bored with editing. I've nearly caught up on my editing, which is good, but there was one video I was exporting and it took about an hour and a half, and that was a ridiculously long wait. There's so many other things I could have done with the video editor whilst that particular video was exporting. Oh yeah, no, there was another one that I then needed to export, but I cancelled it because it was going to take forever. But you never know, I might actually catch up on myself for once. That's a scary thought. Gosh, is this today's Channel 5 movie? Well, yes, I think it might be. Deadly departure. Nice bit of alliteration. An FBI agent has her family taken hostage while she's on a flight to Washington, D.C. The agent then has to make a decision that could cost the lives of her husband and her son. I'm pretty sure those were the same opening shots they had for last week's movie.
Привет, Mr. Sergey. This is the last one, right? I've done everything that you've asked me to do. Please, I don't want to do this anymore. I want out.
So the second movie for today, Cradles for Cash. When a woman's baby is snatched from the hospital she works at, she joins forces with another victim of child abduction to tackle an illegal adoption ring. That would explain the Eastern European accents. The nice cliche of this must be the trafficker. Good afternoon. Today has been pretty fully, deliciously nothing. No, that's just gubbins. Good afternoon. Today has been completely and utterly and deliciously full of nothing, and it's been brilliant. It's the first day where things have felt normal since the whole coronavirus pandemic started. Don't know what it is about today, but something feels normal when previously it didn't. James is at work today. He had a meeting at 3 o'clock and then a night shift. So he decided to go into work to do the meeting face to face rather than doing it remotely via the internet here and then going into work later. So he left about 2 o'clock. After getting up at stupid o'clock this morning, I then went back to bed, woke up again about 10, had second breakfast. After James went to work, I had lunch. I've been watching some TV, clearing some stuff off the TiVo box. But when I woke up this morning, I was going to transfer, there were a couple of things that I recorded that I wanted to transfer onto the computer. And when I did that, I got a message to say that my card was full, that the memory on my card was full, and I couldn't understand why. Because I hadn't recorded very much this morning. So the idea that I filled up my card with just a few minutes of recording did not make sense. What had happened, after I went to bed, or as I went to bed, somehow I pressed the record button without realising it. So I ended up with 2 half-hour recordings, both of which were exactly 33 minutes and 11 seconds, followed by a third recording which was about 7 or 8 minutes, which was James asleep. Probably me asleep as well, but I always maintain I don't snore. So anyway, I somehow recorded the conversation I had with James as I went back to bed. He has no recollection of this conversation whatsoever. So this is what isolation is doing to me. I am literally making videos in my sleep. That's where we are. I tell you, social isolation and lockdown being over, I feel, is going to be the metaphorical equivalent of taking your bra off at the end of a long day. See, men won't understand this, but just that feeling of, that's what I'm looking forward to. My knitting post has not yet arrived, and I'm starting to get very impatient. I know we're in the middle of a pandemic, these are unprecedented times, things will happen when they happen, etc., etc., but I want my stuff. I want my stuff. What I did get through the post today, though, was this postcard, if I can find it. What I've done with it, oh, there it is, from a friend of mine. On the back it says, I decided it was time my colouring project went out into the wild, so enjoy. Hope you're keeping well and not driving each other too mad. Now, it's kind of funny she should mention that end bit, because it was 2-3 nights ago, James and I were sitting, and I think after we'd just eaten dinner, and he made some comment about, well, I suppose at least we haven't killed each other yet. And I was like, oh, you noticed that one as well. I think we're both a lot happier now he's gone back to work, simply because we're not spending all day, every day on top of each other and annoying each other. But yeah, that was a lovely thing to get through the post. That was from a friend of mine she's a guiding friend of mine. She went to the Jamboree in 2011, as did I. We shared a tent in 2015. She didn't go to America last year. She's applying for the Moot next year and probably will go to the Jamboree or apply to the Jamboree in South Korea if the opportunity is open to members of Girl Guiding. We don't yet know. So actually, that's not bad. I also got my copy of Nature's Voices, which is the RSPB magazine. So I'm going to go and read it and see if it's got anything about bees. This is going to be the serious bit. Yesterday, Thursday, was Question Time, which I don't watch because it always makes my blood boil every single time without fail. Yesterday was also the clap for the NHS. One of the people on Question Time last night was a lady called Dr. Rachel Clark, who is on Twitter as Dr. Oxford, who trained initially as a journalist, then in her late 20s retrained as a doctor, and was very vocal and very prominent during the junior doctor strike a few years ago because she had the journalistic background, so she knew all of the tricks that the government were trying. So she was using her journalistic background and her medical knowledge to speak up about the slander and the smears that were being put forward by the government. Got her book here. I would strongly recommend you read it. My Life in Your Hands. Now there is a passage in there which I was looking for and I couldn't find about a hospital manager who refused to admit a very sick patient, I think a child, I think a young girl, because this particular patient wouldn't be seen within 4 hours and therefore would mess up A&E waiting times. And it got to the point of the consultant having to come down and basically saying, this patient is being admitted. I don't care if it screws up your waiting times and your stats. The only person who is going to tell me otherwise is the chief executive officer of this hospital trust. And if you want to get him down here in A&E in his pyjamas and tell me otherwise, that's fine. But until then, I'm admitting the patient. It's a really good book. It's about the politics of the NHS, about the stresses and strains of being a junior doctor, about the funding, the internal skirmishes, the hypocrisy of people saying one thing and doing another, sexism. Strongly, strongly recommend that you read it. If you are one of these people like me who believes the NHS is amazing and you stand outside your house each Thursday to clap for the NHS, please don't let it stop there. Please hold your MPs accountable. Hold the government accountable. Hold Matt Hancock accountable in his role of Secretary for State for Health and Social Care. Don't just sit and don't stand outside your house and clap and say, gosh, the NHS is wonderful, and leave it at that. It needs your support, and it needs your support in more than just clapping. It needs you to vote for parties that aren't going to defund the NHS and then sell off privatisation as its cure. It needs you to write to your MP and complain about things you think are wrong. It needs you to do your bit to make sure that we still have this healthcare service available for all. I don't know about you, but I cannot afford private healthcare. And I need healthcare. We all do. So please, if you're going out next Thursday and clapping for the NHS, don't let it stop there. And I'd also recommend Dr. Rachel's book. Yay, rubbish light, which makes me look slightly dead, really. Which probably isn't something to be joking about in the current times. Anyway, it's 11 o'clock. I spent most of this evening doing editing. It's been one of those situations where I've done as much editing as there is space to fill. So I had great, great fun going through yesterday's, I think it is, and picking out a recording I did of Birdsong and then trying to mix that with music. I haven't actually got there yet, but listening to all the music of the Birdsong, even though it's pitch black outside, was really good fun. I've also started looking up things about the Dawn Chorus because I have a bit of a plan hatching that may or may not come to fruition. Each year, the RSPB do tours on their reserves up and down the country. It's around this time, around springtime, for people to go along and hear the Dawn Chorus and walk around with a volunteer or a staff member who knows a lot about birds and can pick out pick out calls and tell you what you're listening to, and so on and so forth. Unsurprisingly, they're all cancelled this year, which is a real shame. Needs must, but it is a real shame. But yes, I hadn't realised quite how late it was getting, and my right hand, my mouse hand, is now cold and sore because it's cold. So I think now might be a good time for me to go and switch on the electric blanket, ready for when I go to bed. The other thing as well is because James isn't here, I probably should switch on both sides of the electric blanket, because if I only switch on my side when I get into bed, one half will be really nice and warm and one half is cold, and there's a very clear, definite line down the middle of the bed where the two are. So this, under the flashlight, is my camp blanket. There you go, that will be why I couldn't see it properly. Normally this stays in a box in the bedroom, but actually it might be needed tomorrow for a thing. So before I go to bed tonight, I am going to make sure I leave it in the sitting room so that I don't disturb James tomorrow by rummaging around for it. Can you hear the rain? Can you hear the rain? And of course I've left the fire pit outside, and I think I've got it the right way up, so it will be gathering water as we speak. So yeah, that's Friday done. I don't think I recorded much. Normally I aim for about 10 minutes a day. I don't think I've got that much today. And to be completely honest, I'm happy with that. Putting daily vlogs together is quite challenging, trying to find things that are new and exciting and interesting when actually it's just me on my own in the house. I don't like the sound of that weather. But yeah, trying to do that is a bit of a challenge. So actually making 10 minutes a day is pretty good going most days. And yeah, today I just had a bit more relaxed day. That's just the way it goes sometimes. I'm now going to tuck into bed where I have a nice warm bed, a nice warm electric blanket, and hopefully I'll be able to fall asleep pretty quickly.